Okay. So good morning, good morning. Today we're going to be talking about a fabulous way to get listings, which is the number one thing in our market right now, and that is expireds. Now, one thing I do want to say is, I don't know if anybody saw my post this morning, but I read an article put out by, it was actually put out by Florida Realtors, but they actually had some great data from NAR included in it. But in general, what they're saying, what the economists were saying, there's no bubble. It's not going to burst. Prices are not going to drop anytime soon, and it has everything to do with a lack of inventory. Supply is so low, demand is so high. So the biggest differences between now and 2006, 2007, 2007, July, there was 4 million properties in the market. In the end of April or March in 2021, there was 1.07 million properties. It is significantly different. We're in a completely different time right now. And they're also not crazy financing programs where people are putting no money down and having no skin in the game. You know, people who had no business buying homes were buying homes back then. It is not happening today. So if you get your customers saying, I don't know if this is a market I want to jump into, I want to buy a home, but I'm going to wait for this bubble to burst. The question is not, is the bubble going to burst? I mean, I understand waiting for some more inventory that you like. Listen, I understand that. But don't be waiting for the bubble to burst and you think you're going to get some fabulous pricing. That's not going to happen. As a matter of fact, nationally, our average sales prices are up $35,000 nationally. So they're suggesting that that's not going to change anytime soon. What they do think is although we're still going to continue to rise in the average sales price, what's going to happen is it's just going to slow down the increase. So it'll continue to increase. They do not see any time in the future where this bubble, as you guys, a lot of people are thinking, is going to burst at all. So we have a bull market and let's run with it. So, I have somebody in my chat. Like, I'm going to open that. Cost of goods too. Yes, the cost of goods. Well, that has to do a lot, guys, with the home builders, right? I mean, wood cost is up, what, about 30 some odd percent, 30, 35%. It's insane. Steel is now going through the roof. So we have so many, and it's not just that it's expensive, it's really, really hard to source. So with that said, it's our job to get inventory, right? We've got to find it. And where can we find it? Well, to me, one of the best places to look is somebody who wanted to sell their home anyway. So we're going to just take a little peek here and we're going to talk a little bit about expired listings, why I love them. Number one, biggest thing, they already believe in our services. We know they wanted to sell their home. They put it on the market. But this is where I'm going to suggest you think a little bit differently. And those of you who've had a conversation on the side with me, you know that I don't think you should just look in the last month or the last week. When you're talking expireds, I would go all the way back until the beginning of COVID. Anytime from the beginning of COVID, so that's what are we talking, last March probably? March till today, I would look at those expireds. I would go that far back because we have to ask ourselves, they wanted to sell then, what happened, right? Was it that maybe something changed with their job? Possible. Was it that maybe they decided, you know, it's too unsure right now, we're not sure, let's just hold off? Totally could be. So where we're at today is the time to come back to those folks and ask them, have a nice conversation and see, you know, I noticed you were interested in selling. Have your plans changed? Are you still considering it? But remember, their motivation may be totally driven by a different thing now. Whereas before it may have been driven by family, might have been driven by job, it might have been driven. Now, you know, their job may be virtual. Maybe they don't need to make that move anymore that they needed to make for their job. It's now virtual. So now it's going to be based on some other things. And one thing you don't want to forget is equity. Because of what's happening in our market, we really need to think about that could be a huge driving factor as to why they might change their situation sooner than later. So when we talk to them, again, this is the one thing, this is why I'm going to suggest when you're going after expires, go for high end. I'm not going to say don't look at things that are 300,000, but you are going to do better every day picking up a luxury listing that expired. You just will, because I guarantee you, whoever they were with, it doesn't matter who the company was, they were not doing what we do. Right? What other company was putting every home in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, the Joy in China, the Nikkei in Japan, the Financial Times in India, the James Edition, the Mansion Global in the UK? I mean, the list goes on, guys. Who's doing that? Nobody. You could pay for syndications to some of these things, but to do all of the, and it's not just that we're in those places, we have exclusive relationships where we are getting showcased. For example, Expansión, which is the Mexican media conglomerate. They have Obras en Ventas, they have El Decor, they have a group of different things. We have an exclusive with them. We are the only real estate company that's being showcased. Now, that's another thing to mention. The European market, the UK market, the South American market, obviously very different than the 2020. But now that things are starting to open, I can tell you from Alistair Brown's team over in the UK is opening up. Their pound to dollar is really strong and they're starting to buy. So that global market is starting to come back. Am I going to tell you the condo hotel market is coming back? We're probably not. Don't go after those first buyers. Okay, those are not my suggestions, except for Rafe. I know. Rafe, they come after Rafe.
They come to me. I'm not going to turn away real estate.
But to that point, I was kidding about don't go after them. Maybe though you do. And what I mean by that is you don't go for one. You go for a group. You go for the investors that own a bulk of them and you try to do a bulk sale because that is who's buying. Investors who are not short-sighted, investors who have the money to hold on without, reaping the benefits would be probably okay hanging on to that. But to that point, I do want to share some other information. The Grove Resort over the past 6 months has sold 3 units. That's it. And there were hundreds. However, here's to your point. When we want to get somebody to buy, because we want them to sell, we've got to engage them to want to go somewhere, right? So, but with the buying market in the condo hotels, to share with you this, the Grove Resort has offered just now on a group of properties, it's multiple units in different buildings and phases. They're doing 12% guaranteed lease back. That's the same, guys, 12% until December 2022. They're also paying HOA until December 2022. This is a huge opportunity for an investor. So yes, I joke around about the condo hotel market, but the reality is people are making things happen because they need to get it to move. Investors are starting to open up their money. And I will tell you another thing. In March, we have a owner who has a unit in the Grove, and he made profit in March over $4,500. So people are still profiting. No, the price points really are in the 4s, but those were some of the resales that were going lower at the 2s. Yeah, they're in the 4s.
So people are selling in the.
People were selling some of the smaller units, but primarily the 2s, the 3s, they're selling more in the 4s, the high 3s, the 4s. Mm-hmm.
Did they ever sell out?
Or they're not. No, the developer's still there. But it's condo hotel.
Yeah.
So they're managing that property, but it's a beautiful property. So I want you to think about it that way. And if you are thinking about even any type of condo hotel, again, if you're thinking about a bulk sale, this could be an opportunity right now. So don't forget that. Now, remember, the other important thing with our analytics that we have built into our systems through List Track, we can see not only the zip codes that they're coming from, but what Sotheby's office is. Now more than ever, if we're doing anything with our, international market, we need to be looking at that. We need to be checking our list track and making sure we're seeing where this interest is coming from, then reaching out to our network partners on the other side and starting a conversation with them. This is the most important thing right now, because anything we can do to increase our sales. Listen, it's not about selling it fast. I mean, everything sells fast right now, except for the condo hotels, right? Things are moving fast and things are moving for really high prices. But what is the one problem we're having in our market? Appraisals. And I don't see it getting better anytime soon. Let's be honest. Do you, Maria? Do you see it getting better anytime soon? Appraisal issues? Yeah, it's not getting better. So who would be the best customer? Who would be your best buyer? A cash buyer, right? A buyer that we don't have to worry about the appraisal. So where do we have a better opportunity of getting a cash buyer from? Out of the area, right? Internationally or nationally, folks coming from California, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Washington, Virginia. These folks have a lot of capital. Now, not to say they don't want to get a mortgage. Maybe they will want to because the interest rates are so incredibly low, but we don't necessarily have to make it tied to an appraisal. We could actually even call it a cash deal that they just choose to get some things as a mortgage on it, right? So these are some things to consider, okay? And when you're having the conversation with the seller, I guarantee you no other agents talking about this stuff. That is the point. Our conversation must always sound different than other people. What is everyone going to tell them? I'm going to sell it fast. I'm going to sell for more money, right? Everyone's saying the same thing. Are they saying why? No, they're just throwing in the MLS. We're saying we want to get it sold. We know their appraisals are an issue. So we're going to go to our national and international buyers who are more cash driven. Right? Is that not a different conversation? So nobody has the marketing like we do. Yes, this is true, but the reality is today, it's not just to getting people to want to buy your home. That is not a problem we have, right? Everybody wants to buy a home. It's about getting the most qualified buyers. So that is the key. And there are a lot of qualified buyers out there. Okay, so these are the three things when you're dealing with an expired, whether it's a phone call, this is a phone call. I highly recommend talking to these people. You know, that's the first thing you're saying. Hi, I'm calling Angie. I'm calling you. Hello. Hi, is this Angie?
Yes.
Angie, this is Carrie Prieto from Premier Sotheby's. Am I catching you in a bad time?
No.
Oh, fabulous. Well, I just noticed that your home is no longer on the market. Are you still planning on moving?
I was, but I'm not sure now.
May I ask, is it that your situations has changed or what's holding you back?
Yes, because they called me when we decided to take it out of the market.
But would you still want, if you could get, let's say even more than you had listed your home for, would you be interested in selling it?
Maybe if it's more.
So you would be interested in sales. So terrific. How would you like to have a conversation? I can come by either today at 5 or tomorrow at 3. What works better?
What about maybe tomorrow?
Tomorrow. Sold. Take it. Tomorrow at 3. I'll see you then. Guys, it's a conversation, right? If they say, well, I'm not sure, you got to dig a little deeper. Why not? And would you be interested? So here's the point. You've got to look at it a little bit differently. We're not going to say, this was my old script. If I could net you the same amount of money, would you be interested in the conversation? Guys, it's not the same amount of money. If they listed their home last year, I guarantee them, if we know nationally the average sale price has increased 35,000, not to say that they were listed at the correct price. So my point is, if you're making a phone call, do a little quick CMA and see the differential in what it listed at and what you think it could list at. That's your new conversation. So when you make that call, you say, oh, I see your home was listed for about 500. If I were able to maybe get you something around the lines of, I don't know, 535, 540, would you be interested in the conversation? Right? Like this is the conversation, guys. If people are motivated, if they're nervous about where they're going to go, if they're nervous about where life still is, there's one thing that always supersedes that. You guys, anybody know what it is? Greed. Yes, greed. It does. Let's be honest. It's not necessarily a dirty word, right? I mean, little side note, my husband and I bought some Ethereum, whatever. And my husband was like, maybe we should put more. I said, looked at him, I said, honey, we're just playing a little bit here in the market. He's like, yeah, the greed is taking over. But it's true, right? But we have to play on human nature, guys. It's a reality. So let's utilize what we have. And really, we've got to find inventory one way or another, right? Okay. Now, there's a couple letters that I have. This is an old letter. So let's take a look. I'm actually going to do this. Escape maybe. Okay. I'm going to go to my old letter. Okay. So this used to be the old expired letter. Those of you who had it, and you could vary it any way you wanted to. That's a note to say your house didn't sell. Please don't be too discouraged. Other homes in your neighborhood have been selling. Why not yours? You can write it any way you wanted to. It's not too late to get the job done right. There are plenty of qualified buyers, but they may not live in our local area. That's if you wanted to do the one about our global network. And if it's a higher price, I would. It's all about exposure, getting your home in front of the most qualified buyers wherever they are. To see what take your property to global, call, text, or email me, right? That was the old conversation. Do you guys agree with that? I mean, Alejandro, you got some people calling on that, right? Okay, here's my new note. I have a new one I did. Here. I noticed your home is no longer on the market. Are you still interested in selling? In April 2020, you had your home listed for blank. Would you be surprised to know today you could potentially list it for blank? It's all about exposure, getting your home in front of the most qualified buyers. To see what taking your property global could do for your home, so call, text, or email me. It's a little different spin. What do you guys think of that one?
I like it because it says in April 2020.
Uh-huh.
The other one doesn't say that, so.
The point is, our conversation needs to change because there is different things happening in our market, right? But most importantly, let's not avoid the obvious price increase, right? And when you get there, don't have that appraisal conversation on the phone. That appraisal conversation cannot be on the phone. That has to be in person, right? The most important thing with an email, what's the point of a letter? The letter is to tweak their interest. If you get a call off a letter, you just want an appointment. That's all you want. Do not get to know their life story. Do not have a long conversation with them on the phone. Fabulous. I'm so excited about meeting you. What day works better? Go right to the appointment. Now, Alejandro, you've been getting some appointments lately. Have you been spending time on the phone with these people or just getting in the door?
Just getting into the door. So.
Just getting there. Trust me, guys, less is always more when it comes to this. You really got to focus on getting in the door, because when you get in the door, you're still going to bring all of our stuff, right? You're going to bring our listing presentation. You're going to bring our beautiful brochure. You're going to bring these things. But what are they really going to care about? How much can they make, right? Number one. Now, with this comes a big problem. The one thing I'm seeing everywhere. Anybody have a thought as to what that could be? Let me go back into my, hold on.
With the letters or with?
In general. Let me see what happened. I lost my people. Stop the share. Stop it. Hold on a second. Stop share. Here it is. So tiny. There you go. Let's get everybody big. This is a participation time, guys. Anybody know what is the one area we have to really address and address well? Commission. Thank you, Carol. You're on it. We're the same mind. Commission, right? Because everybody feels like, listen, you're not working. I could put my home on the market myself and I could get these offers. Why would I want to pay you more? Right? Would you all agree that that's kind of the thought right now? Okay, so let's talk about it. Why should we get more money than somebody else who's just going to throw it on the market? Why should we stick to our guns and get 6%? Anybody, why should they pay us 6%? This is the most important thing. If you guys don't buy in, there's no way you're going to handle this objection handling. So everybody throw me some ideas. Why should we still get, or tell me the opposite if you don't think we should. I want to hear all of that.
Well, besides global exposure, we spend a lot of money in marketing. We showcase the property internationally, and this costs.
Excellent. Now that's totally the reason right there, Carol, that I would suggest we get high-end listings, right? Because the lower prices are going to say you don't even have to do that. Why bother? So let's focus on the high end first, and then we'll hit the lower end, right? So to your point, yes, we spend a lot of money in marketing. Why do we do that though?
Because the buyer isn't local in most cases.
Absolutely. So Rafe is 100% buy for exposure, because the buyer at the higher price points probably does not live here locally. And that is the conversation that we have to drive in. Sure, you may get offers, but are you getting offers from the most qualified people? And if your home is above a certain price, here's the thing, over $10 million, there was how many? Oh God, now I get less than 100,000 buyers in the world, or in the US. But my point is that at every differential price point, once you hit the million, those numbers go down of buyers significantly. We want to make sure we're getting the most qualified buyers. So we do that through our global exposure, right? Through our international and our national exposure. But what's the other piece of information that we have in our pocket that nobody else has? It's a whole referral network is fabulous. So you could talk about the referral network, but truly it's our auction clientele. Guys, the average person from the auction clientele has 800 million net worth. Okay, they see all of our homes that are listed. Our homes are getting showcased in front of the auction clientele all the time, and only our homes. They do not showcase other homes in front of the auction clientele. This is really important, right? Because we have a group of people in our network that nobody else has. So what do we have? We have better marketing, we have more global and national exposure, and we have the highest net worth people actually in our network looking at the properties. The other thing we have, to your point, Rafe, is we have an amazing referral network. And what's important about that, and this goes down to the why global, why Sotheby's. We're in 75 different countries and territories. This is what I would bring up. Recently, 2 weeks ago, we had our own global networking event, which was a group of all of the Sotheby's agents internationally coming together. 73 countries were represented. Okay, we're not just saying we're in 75 countries, 2 countries, I don't know what they were doing, but we are actually, connecting with one another. This is where it's important. It doesn't matter if you have an office in, in Australia, if you never talk to them, right? What's the point? If you have an office in New York and you never talk to them again, what's the point? The reason is that we talk to each other. In each of your networks, you should have people in each of our feeder markets that you talk to, that you have conversations with. This is the important thing because they will help sell the property. And we do, yeah.
To your point, so I made a connection in Texas. I forgot what the is in Texas, but I listed the home and I have a specific list on my my hub for brokers and Sotheby's network that are not part of Premier. And then she emailed me. She's like, "Hey, I just posted your new listing on Facebook, on Instagram, and I also shouted out to all my other agents here in the Texas. I think she's in the Fort Worth, Texas area. She's like, any other listings you got, send them over. I can do that with you as well. Instagram, social media, to our other agents." And she's like, "When I'm in Orlando next time, I'll come back and say hi." So it's, that was just one, and I connected with other agents from like New York, so they're also doing the same thing too. So
Incredible. And Alejandro, how much are you paying for that?
0. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, if we hired a company to post stuff for Instagrams and other places, how much we pay for that? Probably $500 a month, right? And what are you getting? Who the heck knows? But if you've got agents who are connected, and they are connected to good customers because they're Sotheby's, we already know that, right? They already have in their pocket high net worth customers, just like we do. So what does that mean? That means that we don't just have affiliates in other places. We have this network where we work together. That's the difference. There is no other brand. I challenge anybody to bring me another brand that actually works together to sell a home. Think about it. Coldwell Banker here, right? That's a big network. You could have 2 across the street. They may not be owned by the same broker. You may have one corporate owned, one affiliate owned. They are competing with each other. Sotheby's does not compete. That is why we own the entire region. That is why we don't compete with one Sotheby's, who is Miami coming up the East Coast, and we are Central Florida, the West Coast. We all work together. And that is great, not just for us and for our customers, but that's a story that you need to be talking about all the time on your social media, right? The stories that you have that, Alejandro, you need to put out something that says, "So excited to be part of this. I have so-and-so," or share her post back to yours and say, "Thank you so much, Fort Worth, Texas. We're here."
Share my post on her story, but I think she just didn't know how to.
So cute. But guys, this is huge. Did anybody else get a lot of connections from G&E? I really hope so, because good job, Emily. This is the time we need to be using that. And those are the stories when you're in the expired listing that you bring up. And even if you're in a $500,000 listing and they say, "Well, why should I pay you 6%? You should take 5 because you're just going to throw it out there." You can say, "Well, I could throw it out there, but my job is not to just bring you any buyer and then we have to worry about their loan and their appraisal." Because that's the situation. We do have people who could buy that $500,000 home here, but how many of them buying it cash? Right? Which is why we still need to go to our global network so we can get you the most highly qualified buyers who hopefully can be buying this cash, or if they choose to get a mortgage, they may not make it contingent on the the financing, in which case we can feel confident that we could close your home for the price, because you could get anything, you could ask anything for your home, but if the bank isn't willing to pay it, I don't care if they say we're waiving our appraisal contingency, guys. They're not going to get the loan. And if they don't get the loan, guess what happens? They get out in the financing contingency and they still get their money back. And let me tell you, as the broker of 3 or 4 offices, I see it everywhere. All these agents writing in home is contingent on appraisal, which totally means nothing, by the way. Home is not contingent on appraisal. Waiving contingencies, that means nothing either. And money, the buyer's going to be putting down 20,000 more above appraisal. I see it all the time. Guess what happens? Does it always work? No, because the lender might come back and say, well, that's nice you wanted to do that, but you're no longer qualified for the loan. Right? Maria's in there saying absolutely. So yeah, Maria, if you want to come in and jump in on that and say anything about that, or if you want me to face this towards you. Hold on. Okay.
So yeah, it is definitely happening. And if a person is putting between 3% and 20% down, the financing contingency will override the appraisal. Unless they've got gobs and gobs of cash and they want to buy it, they could still technically get out. So usually it's kind of the buyer, and they don't always give me all of their assets either. I may ask for them, but they may have other assets that we're not using. So from a listing agent's perspective, it's kind of tough. You're not going to know exactly what the buyer has. You know, now if I'm doing the loan for you and your buyer wants it, that's a different story. We can go through it and try to do it. But got to remember, I'm also maybe working for a buyer who wants to get out of it.
Yeah.
And if they haven't shared with me all of their assets, I could still decline the loan if it doesn't appraise. So it just, honestly, it's just going to depend on how much your buyer wants it. If your buyer wants it, then they can probably make it work. And they did, because they already said 20%, you know, they would do 20,000 over. You know?
Yeah.
But there's no way really to protect yourself if the buyer wants out and they don't know. If 30 or 40% down, it's a different story. They're still going to qualify.
Does anybody have a question about that? Because I think this has been a huge misunderstanding amongst the entire realtor community. I'm telling you, I see all sorts of crazy stuff written in contracts, and then I get
Karen,
yes,
can I have a question?
please.
Can I ask a question to Maria?
Uh-huh.
So let's say the buyer is offering on a house that is listed 440, he's offering 475. He's putting 15,000 over appraisal. Let's say the house doesn't appraise, it appraised for a very low price, let's say 420. Can he get out of the contract? Because, and even if he writes there's no appraisal contingency, or is there any chance that they will be obligated to buy?
What was the original loan amount? Like, was he originally putting 50% down, or was he putting minimum down 10%?
He's putting 10% down.
Then he can technically get out of the deal, because we would no longer, he wouldn't qualify potentially. Now, he may have a ton of money sitting aside. That if he wants it, he can still buy it. But from the perspective of what the lender sees, and if we're going to deny it, our loan is now going to be 90% of 420 or whatever it appraises for.
Gotcha.
A huge amount of money that he may or may not have.
So it's not, he's not in danger of having to close, even if he waives the contingency. So let's say now they say, no, you waive the contingency, now you're obligated to buy. That's not going to happen.
Well, because she still has the financing contingency.
Gotcha.
You have the appraisal. Now, you may be out of time and you may be stuck, I would assume, right? Because if your appraisal contingency was a such and such date, and then your financing contingency was maybe the same day, I mean, you have to watch both dates.
So that's my point, guys. All these people are thinking by saying, oh, we're waiving appraisal contingency and buyer will put down $20,000 above low appraisal or whatever, doesn't mean anything if the lender will deny them.
And you have to know the level of the buyer's intention to buy. They may
Yes.
say that, but if they really don't want it, or if something happens and they change their mind, they
Mhm.
can get out.
What's happening now with buyers?
Thank you, Maria.
People are getting they're in a frenzy. It's like, I think of the sharks with the chum in the water and they're going crazy, right? That's buyers, and the chum is our inventory. So they're all going crazy for this, right? And they're putting in all sorts of crazy things. And some of them are going through with it. And some of them are not. Some of them are starting to get buyer's remorse. And they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Why would I want to buy a home that doesn't appraise? And then the agent says, well, yeah, but you said that you would, and you'd put $20,000 down. And you're like, but wait a minute. I didn't think it really would, right? So this is what's happening. And I know because I'm hearing from agents. Just because your buyer at the time when they're desperate to get a home agrees to something doesn't mean 2 weeks later when the home doesn't appraise that they still agree to that. So here's my point. If you're a listing agent, you better be talking to that lender before you give the offer to the seller. That you have to say to that lender, if this home does not appraise,
They have enough money.
yes, do they have enough money that they will not be denied the loan? You need to know that. Because if that answer is, well, I mean, we've even heard a foreign national lender, they were putting 30% or 35% down, right, Fran? Who's your people? And they said, oh no, if the home doesn't appraise, we will not give a loan. I've never heard that, ever. The guy's putting 30% down or 35%. Craziness. So it
they
is
wouldn't let him pay the additional.
supposedly. I think he was just trying to get out.
Mm.
That's exactly what I think was happening. But the point here is that it doesn't matter what is written in that contract. It really doesn't. It matters what's going to happen with the lender, which is to my point, why if we're even in a $500,000 home, we have an opportunity to get the listing because we share those kinds of stories. I'm sure you've heard from other people that they're writing all sorts of crazy things in where they're waiving appraisal contingencies and they're going to pay more money above asking. And guess what happens? They're still denied the loan. We want to avoid that, which is why we go to our network, which is why we go and put the money into the marketing, because we want to get you the most qualified buyers who we don't have to worry if they will qualify. Because more than likely your home won't appraise, right? Let's be honest. So these are things, guys, we have to seriously think about. Here's another one to the point of finding inventory. Now, reverse prospecting, right? If you have buyers for a neighborhood that they want that neighborhood, I would be sending letters to those neighbors and saying, I have a buyer or buyers that are really interested in your neighborhood. Did you know that homes are selling XYZ percentage more right now in your neighborhood? Mix it with the equity letter. If you or your neighbor are interested in selling, please call or text or email me, right? This is seriously, taking the equity letter to a different level. And the difference is though, you better have the buyers.
I was just gonna say that because I get a ton of mail about our rental, our investment properties. And I just looked at it, but I don't know, could you actually say, just to pique the interest or to make it seem for real, if you had a person, could you actually use a person's name?
I would never use someone's name because that's like a privacy thing.
Okay.
But the point is this, usually when that used to be a tactic. Sorry guys, KW used to do that all the time. It's horrible. They got a bad name for doing that. But the reality is today, how many people are dying to get homes? So if you quote the fact that inventory is so low and there are buyers that have come to you for that neighborhood, even better if you sold a home in that neighborhood. Let's say you sold a home in that neighborhood. My letter might say, I have more buyers who wanted to buy the home we had listed. If you are interested in selling or your neighbor, I would love to be able to offer it to all the other buyers who weren't able. We had 20 multiple offers for this home. Only one of them got the home. I'd be more than happy to go back to the other 19 to see if they want your home, right? This is what I'm talking about. Taking the situation exactly what it is
Tell the story.
and tell the story. Turn it around. So what does it matter to them that their neighbor had 20 multiple offers? It matters that only one person got the home. 19 more people are left, guys. That's pretty easy math, right? And who's to say you couldn't do it when your home just went pending? Why wait for that home to sell? Alejandro's like, I don't know. So usually we send the just sold postcard, right? And we say how we were able to help the seller sell their home, right? And we use that to go to our farming community. But what I'm suggesting is you have a home in whichever community, Bella Colina, that's probably not gonna be that community, but anyway, whatever community. And you put the home in contract. Like for example, Lori Cook listed a home in Tilden's Grove at 9 something. In the first day she got, I don't remember how many offers, it's already pending. So it's at every price point. If I were Lori right now, sorry, Lori, where are you? I would send a letter to all of the rest of the neighbors there saying that, did you know your neighbor's house just went pending? We had 20 more offers. Only one of them was accepted. We have 19 more people that could potentially be interested in your home if you're interested in selling, right? If you wait, they're going to be like, well, that was a month ago, right? Where do those buyers go? They probably bought something else. You can't wait. On that kind of messaging, it has to be instantaneous. You're not saying what their neighbor sold their home for. You're not saying it. You're just saying your neighbor's home went on the market and went pending in 1 day. That is strong, guys. Really strong. We don't have to make this stuff up. This is happening every day. And if you don't have a listing, then let me know where there are listings. I'll tell you what I see in the market. Look and see what people are pending it for. All you need to do is look in the MLS, and you can even send a letter and say, did you know your neighbor just pended their home in 1 day? If you're interested in doing the same, call, text, or email me. Prices in your community have gone up XYZ percentage, $25,000 since the beginning of the year, whatever the case is, right? These are different messages than we've been using, but they're critically important right now. Yeah.
Would you recommend, let's say that it's listed by a Premier Sotheby's agent, but you're not the list agent, and you have buyers that, let's say, wanted that property went pending. Could you do that to other sellers within that community, or no, because maybe that agent might?
So if it was a Premier Sotheby's agent, I'd ask the agent. Say I have some more buyers. I'd like to send a letter to the people in the community. Do you mind? We need to work amongst ourselves as best as we can, right? And they might say, yeah, it's a great idea. Or hey, let's do it together, right? Nothing wrong with that either. We have a lot of people co-branding, co-marketing on things, right? Nothing wrong with that. But if it's not our agent, then we don't care. Because I guarantee you nobody's doing anything like this. Right? What do people do today? Have you seen any of this kind of thing?
People aren't even doing open houses anymore that way.
People aren't doing open houses anymore. So here's to another point. Well, I'm sure it's increasing. So Peter has been extremely successful. He lifts a home on Friday now, does open houses Saturday and Sunday, and by Monday he's already pending. He has been doing that for the last month, maybe more. He is pending more listings. It's incredible the numbers that he's pending. And it's in every price point. So that's another technique that when you're on an appointment, you could say, I understand what you're saying, but what we're focused on is getting you the best, most qualified buyers. So we are still going to do an open house for you. We're going to do 2, as a matter of fact, the first weekend we go active. Talk about stuff that people aren't talking about anymore. Right. And not only are we going to do an in-person open house, we're going to do a virtual one as well, because we are having more people buying homes virtually still to this day. Completely true. True story. Right. So we have to think about these things a little bit differently. Now, to this point, could you go back to for sale by owners? You could. Now, I am not in love with a for sale by owner. I'm not gonna lie. Because they don't have a motivation. They're missing something. There's something missing with the for sale owner. One, maybe they don't trust us. Maybe they don't think what we do is important because they haven't hired us, right? Number 2, are they truly motivated, right? Do they really want to move? But to that point, that's usually why I'd say go expired every time. And honestly, I'd still put all my intentions into expireds. But if you see somebody who was a for sale by owner who no longer is a for sale by owner, that's again that list. I wouldn't be pulling today for sale by owners. I'd be pulling the for sale by owners during COVID, which is kind of still going on, but you know my point. Last year, I would look at people who were for sale by owner and pulled it off, May, starting from March of last year, because they weren't able to sell their home. And now, if they haven't put it out there, listed on the for sale by owner market, they may be a good person ready to get the most amount of money for their home. Right? But what's going to be the important thing? Appraisals. That appraisal conversation. Are you aware that we are having multiple offers? People are waiving all sorts of inspections and appraisals, and then the home doesn't appraise and they get out anyway and get their money back. Is that something you're prepared to handle? Listen,
The
agents
only
can't handle
thing,
it.
though, a lot of cash buyers, but we are starting, I can't foresee that we would have comps. Because people are buying, they are paying, so now you have a higher comp.
Well, but have we had the appraisals adjust yet?
Well, but you're gonna have a new comp within 30 days, right? Like.
Right. But my point is that we need to talk about the appraisal situation
Yes,
until it adjusts.
Absolutely.
Because hopefully eventually that will adjust, but then we'll need to come up with something new, right? But right now, that's a conversation, because I guarantee you other agents aren't talking about appraisals, right? They're like, oh, no problem, we'll make people waive it, right? I'm sure that's a conversation you're hearing, which really is not it's not an educated response. Because again, if you're having somebody waive it, doesn't mean that they're not gonna be able to get out during financing contingency. So by you coming in, explaining that and saying, this is why we are after the more qualified buyers who do not have to rely on financing, that's a different conversation. And that helps to substantiate why you get the commission you get. Sure, anybody could put your home in the market and take the offers, and they could also have them fall apart, and then you just wasted it. Maybe you missed the opportunity of the market, right? Fear of loss is huge. We really got to hit on fear of loss, because it's true. People who spend their time in a contract right now that lasts too long, we don't know when this inventory shortage will end. We don't know. Nobody knows. And like I said, the economists do not think that this is a boom that's going to end, but they do think that the increase in equity will slow down. So there will be a timing differential at some point. When that point will be, nobody knows. But fear of loss is a very important tool when you're trying to help somebody who wants to make the most money. It's all about, but I guarantee you this. You better get to the crux of what really makes somebody not want to move, and how much you want to bet there's still this inside thing saying, where are we going to go? Right? Don't avoid that conversation. So where are you planning to go? If they don't know, then you know what you're going to get? The other thing I'm seeing, sellers going into contract, getting greedy, taking high prices, and then backing out. We just had another deal that the seller totally backed out from. So what can the buyer do? What would they lose, right? Well, what could happen is that the buyer could sue for specific performance, which means I'm going to make you sell your house. 9 out of 10 times it's not going to happen in a lower price point, because the attorney fees would be so much more. It doesn't even make sense. But we have a home right now. It's about 1.5 million. Horrible story. Don't want to even go into it. Seller had a terrible thing happen, pulled her home off the market, says she doesn't want to sell anymore. And the buyers are still suing for specific performance. And it was a horrible thing that happened. So sometimes buyers just don't care. So a seller needs to understand that too. You can't just say, yeah, let's put it out there. Let's just take a contract. We'll see what happens. And then say, oh, sorry, we've changed our mind. You could, they could sue you to lose your home. You could, and they could force you to move. It's called specific performance. And I've seen more cases recently. I've seen more cases of procuring cause lately. So another point, guys, buyer broker agreement. Please use it. Use the buyer broker agreement, because what is happening is buyers are desperate. They're calling listing agents direct. Then the listing agents writing up the deal. Now, in some instances, you might want them to, right? Because you can't help the buyer and they're driving you crazy. You feel so bad. You're driving them all around town and you lost every house, the last 20 houses. Some instances, you might say, please go with that listing agent. But normally, if you've been working with these people, do you want to lose a customer that way? But remember, they're not your customer unless you're in an exclusive relationship. There's 2 ways to get in one. An exclusive right to sell listing agreement, you actually write a contract, or you do a broker buyer agreement. It's an exclusive broker buyer agreement, which, by the way, is in the buyer folder in .loop. I highly recommend you do it with any buyer you're working with, because right now you're working so much harder on a buyer, right? I was talking to another agent who said, I'm working harder than ever and probably just making the same amount of money, because he's working with a lot of buyers.
Carrie,
Yes.
a question.
Sure.
So I do have a buyer like that he has put in 3 offers on 3 or 4 different homes, and he was always, oh, the second best, or they want me to waive appraisal contingencies and all this other kind of stuff. And so he never got it. So he's like, you know what? I'll just rent. I was like, that's not gonna work. How do I convince him that he just needs to like push through it until something happens?
So that's a tough question, Beverly, because what is his price point?
Well, he's pre-approved for $750.
What's he
Uh,
putting an
but
offer at?
he doesn't want to spend more than like $550.
Well, that's the problem. It's lack of inventory. And this is the question. How many homes did you put him in an offer on?
3,
3. Are you enjoying spending time with him?
not particularly.
I mean, is it something you care to do? Because if you want to do it for free, continue what you're doing. But the reality is sometimes they're not ready to buy. They're not ready to pull the trigger, right? And be the highest offer and make their offer seem better. And then you're just wasting your time. Honestly, I would say put your time into getting a listing. Don't mean to be mean, but let's be honest. That's the truth of it. Now, I know that's not what you wanted to hear, Beverly, but
No, I'm just
Got
saying, like, he drives, they moved here from out of state. They live in, I think, Palm Beach or something like that. Drive. Time I have this to put in them feet. So they want to buy a home here. It's just, you know, I don't know. He listens to his father, so that's not a good thing.
well, is his father a realtor? Is his father been working in this industry?
He's a realtor. He was a realtor in Maryland. I don't know if he's still like active or whatever, but he doesn't understand what's going on
With the market.
Yeah.
So if it were me, Beverly, not to tell you how to run your business, you guys are independent contractors, I would do a takeaway with that buyer. I would say, I would love nothing more than to help you get in a home, but this is what you're gonna need to get in a home. And if you're not ready for that, that's fine. Rent or do whatever you need to do and get back to me when you are,
Okay.
right?
Terry, can I say something?
Sure.
What I'm doing when I'm, because I'm busy with more specific buyers that they want to really go for, and the ones that they don't really know what to do. Sometimes what I do, I ended up referring to other agents that have more time. So we split, because then I don't have to focus on that one. I have somebody taking care of that one buyer for me, and then I'll go focus on other things.
I love that. Thank you, Fran. That's a great thing. Yep. Because guys, think about it. We are in a company that sets you up for listings. We do more for the listings than any other company. So don't waste that. Not to say don't work with buyers, but use this opportunity to help you get listings. Listen, if you have buyers, what's better than having your own inventory? Right? There's nothing better. You could be putting deals together and selling homes without even ever going on the market, and we'll put it in as data sold entry. There's nothing wrong with that. You are helping the buyer and helping the seller. So if you are a buyer agent and you have a lot of buyers, fabulous. Use that to get you the listings that will help them be able to buy them, right? Because right now, if you're relying on the inventory that's out there, if you work with buyers, you're in trouble. We all know that, right? I mean, it is really difficult to get a buyer with a contract that's accepted. And let me tell you one other thing. If you start doing crazy stuff, which none of you better, like waiving inspections, putting 0 on days of inspection, let me tell you what's going to happen. It's called lawsuits. I guarantee you, this is my prediction. In the next few months, we're going to see a slew of lawsuits because these people who were desperate got into homes, didn't do inspections, then they closed on the home, and then they find out all sorts of horrible things. There's a leak in the roof. There's polybutylene piping. God knows what they're finding out, right? And who do you think they're going to go after? The agent who is supposed to help them. So, I forgot my light. No wonder I look terrible. I'm like, what's happening here? Sorry, I was just distracted. Like, I look even more tired than normal. What the heck is it? No lights. Okay, anyway. But my point is that you need to understand that there's repercussions. We're in a hugely litigious society. People are suing for all sorts of things, and it's only going to get worse. Thank God we have errors and omissions, but let's not use it, right? Let's hope we don't ever have to use that. Okay, any questions, any thoughts? Because I really want to add everybody's, it's going to be added to the chat box. I'm gonna put those letters. Anybody like those letters?
Yes, Carrie.
Yes.
Yes, in regards of the letter that you put numbers, I'm always, hesitant to do that, because I don't want them to pin me down because of that, like you gave me this number. So what do you think about that? I mean, when you do the comparables and you put the numbers in those letters.
You're saying potentially. So the
But
point is, I don't feel bad about it at all. If you want people to call you, you need to give them something. If you are too vague, why are they going to call you? This is
I always use that word, but I was afraid to put numbers, but okay.
I would, because let me ask you, so you've been using the letters without it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
many
my
people
own
been
letter
calling
is
you?
very similar, but
How many people have been calling you off your letters?
no, not many.
That's my point. How many people called you off your letters, Alejandro?
I mean, I would say several, I can't say.
Several. I mean, like Tatiana is the best one that gives me numbers. Her last letter, she sent out 1,500. She sends 5 communities. She got 9 phone calls, 4 listings. I mean, that's numbers. And these are real. None of this is fake. And these are the letters and numbers and information that she's using. All you need to do is tell them what's happening, guys. Everything we're saying, Maria, is totally true. But if you put a stat in there, for example, did you know that nationally home sales prices have increased $35,000? If you'd be interested to see how much yours has increased, call, text, or email, you could do that. You might get a hit off that, but you're going to get a much better hit off of, did you know in your neighborhood, prices have risen $50,000 on average, and you could potentially have up to $250,000 of equity. Which one is more attractive? Right? Which one do you think you're going to get a hit off of? One is too general. They feel like you're just fishing, which you kind of are, right? The other one is specifically written to that person. Nobody else can have that. So that's my point. If you write a letter that tells people, did you know I listed your neighbor's home and in one day it went pending with 20 offers, we only got 1 accepted. If you're interested to see if any of the 19 other buyers would like your home, and let me know, right? I mean, that is a specific letter to only the people that live in that neighborhood. Why would you send it to 2 neighborhoods down, right? Nobody cares. It's a different neighborhood. So that's my point. I think the most important thing in today's market is hyper targeted. Any questions from anybody? I can't believe I'm finishing early. This is like a first for me. Unless anybody has any questions.
With the buyers who like going through the lender to
Mhm.
verify, is there anything else we should be asking that lender other than will they qualify if the appraisal goes through?
How
Do
much
they have
extra
the funds?
cash?
How much extra cash? Yeah. I mean, that's the whole point. Now, for your thing, it's a little different. You want to say a little bit, what are the parameters of that program? I'd like to know that, because even if it's a portfolio lender, there may be things, for example, like occupancy that gets tied. And in that condo conversion place or the condo hotel, do they only have 1 week of usage, 3 weeks of usage? That could be part of that portfolio loan. You don't know what they're going to tie.
And in that case, you need to make sure you look very closely at that max interest rate deal
Mhm.
in your financing, because I bet you it's high. And so if they put 5% and it's 7%, then they have an out.
They
right?
already have it out. Exactly. Great point. So Maria says, and actually I just used this in a contract yesterday. If this particular portfolio lender, if they wrote in your contract that they're doing a financing contingency up to 5%, which most people be like, oh, that's high, we're good. But if it's a portfolio loan, it could be 7%, it could
Well,
be
and a condo
10%.
hotel, that's
Yeah, condo hotel.
They didn't
So-
even put the property.
And they didn't even
It
put,
says TBD.
yeah, well, the property's not necessarily important. What is important is the specifics of what they're being approved for. So to Maria's point, if they're already only approved at a 7%, guess what? They already have an out in the contract, because they wrote in the contract, this is contingent upon them getting a loan for 5%. That's why we fill that stuff in, guys, right? Because that caps the buyers. So if the buyer doesn't want to close, guess what? They don't have to. They say, oh, sorry, we got a loan, but it's at 7%. So we're out and we want our money back. That is a true story. Absolutely. So these are the things you have to understand. If you get an outside the box type of program, you need to understand what those terms are. Also, for example, if you're submitting a loan, a contract, and let's say they're approved right now 3.25, I would probably cap it at 3.5. Make sure that you're giving your buyers an out. Not so that we think that interest rates, most economists are saying that it's probably not going to go above 3.5 at the end of the year, but we just need to be prepared to make sure that we are protecting our buyers too. Just because we want to help our buyers get the home doesn't mean we shouldn't protect them.
From themselves.
From themselves,
And
yes.
crazy right now.
Yes, and that's exactly right. And I guarantee you will be seeing lawsuits where people are like, how could they let me buy this? It's going to happen. So don't be one of those people. Okay, any other questions? Anybody want to share anything? I hope everybody got something today. Everybody's going to go out and get tons of listings. Yay! All right, have a wonderful rest of your day. Thursday, there will be no training as I have to go do something at the board, but we will be back to our Monday training. If anybody has any suggestions on what they want me to train on next Monday, any questions, any suggestions? Anybody? Guys, you got to make me think about it all the time. All right, well, I'll come up with something. But if anybody has any requests or thoughts, let me know, text me, let me know, and I will set us up for next week. Have a great rest of your week, guys.
Thank you, you too.